Greetings, Black family, and welcome to On the Wake Up Radio. I am your host, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes Podcast, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, and now iHeartRadio at On the Wake Up Radio. Again, I am your host, DC Radical One, and you can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical, the number one. That's at dc.radical, the number one. Also, you can follow me at dc underscore radical underscore ONE. Again, that's on Twitter at dc underscore radical underscore ONE. And for those of you that are on the YouTube live stream, that information is running along the bottom of the screen. Also, BB Fahodier, Sister Vanessa, I want to give a shout out I received a donation last week and I forgot to mention it. I didn't see it in time. I believe it came during the show, if I'm not mistaken. And I received a donation from Black Magus. So shout out and salute to, I'm assuming that's a brother. Yeah, that's a brother, Magus, for the donation to the Cash App last week. And of course, last week's show was a special show. We had a Saturday night edition of the Center where we had a discussion on Black male-female relationships. And again, I thank that brother for the monetary support. That's something that is very. I feel very humbled and honored whenever someone decides to dig into their pocket and bless us with donations, whether it's at a lecture, which most of the times I do lectures. Thus far, they've been free, or here in this platform, if someone sees fit to make a monetary donation, that is, it's very humbling to see that people see value in the content you're producing, the information you're presenting, the perspective that you're giving. And so I want to again thank Brother Black Magus for that donation from last week. I did not want that to go unnoticed and unnoted. So before I get into the main topic of discussion today, because I want to maximize the audience before I really get into the main topic, which the main topic for this week's show will be taboo subjects in the Black community. And we're going to talk about an array of things. And as I started to make a list, because I wanted to try to at least have some base organization in my head before I got into that discussion, the more that I delved into it and the more I talked to people, the longer that list got. And then you suddenly realize the magnitude of the problems in the community, and also the unwillingness to address them. BB48 to BB48 man. The sister says we should have a special show for those in the over age 40 group regarding dating. I'm going to actually probably do one better than that. BB48 to Spirit, Mind, Character, Soul. BB48 to Sister Misty. I am thinking about, and I'm looking into the technology and see how it would work. And I don't even know if I should announce it, but I will. I've been asked, I believe by people on this show and others, to facilitate a virtual some type of virtual dating event. So that's something that I'll be working on and how see if that can be done effectively. See how many people are willing to participate. Can we get some type of balance in the participation between men and women? And so I will, as I work on that, I will give you all updates on that. One thing I will say is that if if that's something that I get into, I delve into, it will not be free, unlike a lot of things that we do. So, but it will not be some ridiculous charge. It won't be. It'll be less than $20 without question. So that's something that's I've been thinking about since people said it at first. I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. But as I started looking into it, I was like, okay, that's doable. Uh, Sister said, please do because we don't think about the same thing as those in younger groups. Yeah, of course. And that's one thing about the black community. There's so many divisions within the black community that different parts of the community need to be serviced in different ways. And that's something I've become cognizant of as I've got back into doing this work more and more. And so, yeah, that's something that I'll look into. And speaking of dating and relationships, before we get into our main topic, yesterday, Baba and Mama Baruti, they had uh brother BB40 man says he's up for grabs. I'm gonna tell you now, sisters, if you're going after brother BB40 man, you're gonna have to bring your A game. That brother's well in demand. That's a great brother, great warrior. Does a lot of good things for the community. But this is not a commercial for that brother. Uh, but yesterday, Mom and Bob Baruti had the complementarity conference. And for those of you all who are familiar with the Barutis, this is an event that they've been holding. I believe this was the sixth annual event. I have not been able to attend one physically. I've had like weird stuff always happens, like either with my job or whatever at the time. And so I hadn't been able to attend. They always have it in Atlanta. And so they did an online edition yesterday. It was a very um it was a very positive event. The sister said it was nice. Yeah, I saw the sister there. Spirit, mind, character, soul there. Uh Philly. Okay, Sister Vanessa said she was there. Sister Philly E Babe, I talked to her. She said she was there, even though she's not here right now, but she was there. One thing, just for me, one, there were a lot of tools that were given, excuse me, that you don't think about. And when it comes to relationships, one of the things we don't really think about is that relationships are work. And not work in the bad sense, but work like in the sense of you want to stay in shape, that's work. If you enjoy working out, you don't think of it as work. If you don't enjoy working out, like I currently don't, I don't like I did when I was younger, it's work. But it's work because I'm not in shape. If I was in shape, it wouldn't be work. It's kind of how that thing goes. And with relationships, it's the same thing. You know, in order to maintain that, because you're talking about two different people trying to come together along and travel along the same road. That is something that just in and of itself is difficult because it's two different people. You have two different people, two different experiences, two different ideas. They're in a way we're all kind of experiencing our own reality, even within the physical realm. And so that is something that is very difficult. And brother says a labor of love. And as Africans, those of us who are Africans, here in the hells of the West, it's even more difficult because you're trying to do the exact opposite of what you've been told to do. Um, at this point, really, probably your whole life, depending on how old you are. And so it was good to see warrior couples that were there that had been together. Some of them have been together. I believe the longest was, if I'm not mistaken, and y'all can correct me, the sisters that were there. I believe the longest was 47 years, if I'm not mistaken, which is not even, that's not even fathomable. That's like they've been together my whole life. I can't even comprehend that. Um, I believe my grandparents were together for about 35 years before my grandfather passed. And so that's like the limit of my understanding of the length of time that a black man and black woman can be together. And, my grandmother, she loved him till, you know, for the rest of her life. And so to see that those types of things are still in existence, that was positive. They gave different tools on how there's things you need, things that would benefit you through times of strife and maintenance. Well, that's why I call it, yeah, relationship maintenance. You know how you have maintenance on your car. You get your car looked at every so often, and you go get health checked and all that, and you go to the doctor and they check you out and so on. Yeah, I mean, though it was really the same thing. Relationship maintenance. That's a thing that it's not something I really thought about, but it's something that definitely we um we definitely need to do in just in the community in general, but especially within the African centered community, because again, we're going to be the most under attack because the chances are that we're the people that are going to produce the people that are going to destroy our enemies, and they know that. Europeans well aware of that, and so they want to discourage that and try to destroy that African love as much as possible. And I may even do a show on, because I took a lot of notes on that. I may even do a show on that and just talk about some of the things that I learned there and then some of the things that were reinforced. But with that being said, again, that was yesterday. And they're going to have another set of events, one for men, one for women, on August the 8th. So you can go to Baba Rudy's page and check that out, and you can get that information there. So I thank the Barudis again for having that event, and I definitely well, you know, hopefully next year, when this pandemic is hopefully over, that they'll be able to do something live, and I can attend that. I've heard that is very having it live it's a very good event to go to live. Of course, we have our own singles mixers that we have done that I put together. Those things are always interesting and exciting and fun. The sisters, being completely honest, the sisters are the ones that have the creativity to make those things fun and enjoyable. Being completely honest, peace, Sister Sandra. Without the sisters and SBPM, yeah, that thing probably would be nowhere near as popular as it has been. So, thank the sisters of Straight Black Pride Movement for making those singles mixers here in DC that we have what they are. And the goal is, if we ever return to some semblance of normal where we can travel, the goal is to carry those events to different cities. So, major cities around the country. So if you can't come to DC, hopefully within the next year or so, we'll be able to bring those events to you. Now, and last but not least, speaking of events, we have Brother Irritated Genie has an event next week. He's giving a lecture on Saturday at 2 p.m. and African survival in the 21st century. And this is an event that the brother's been working on this for a while. And so I believe that it's going to be kind of imperative if you have the opportunity to catch this, or if you cannot, if you're not here in the DMV area, to get the DVD or the download when it's available. But again, this event is Saturday, July 25th. Doors open at 2 p.m. Tickets are $25 in advance, 35 at the door. The location is Everlasting Life Cafe, 9185 Central Avenue, Capitol Heights, Maryland, 20743. And also, of course, we're coming up on our international convention, which will be taking place the third week of August. So now that we have dealt with the pleasantries, now we're going to get to the unpleasant business at hand. And, you know, today's topic is taboo subjects in the Black community. And of course, we all know what taboo means. Taboo means the things that we do not want to talk about in the Black community, the things that we want to sweep under the rug, we want to act like don't exist, um, and things that we just don't want to address. And these are things that we need to address because they are causing what I would call spiritual rot in our community and destroying the community from the inside out. And some of these things are um some of these things are interrelated. And so you kind of see how one thing can lead to another, can lead to another, can lead to another. And so we're going to address those things. So first things first, the gigantic gorilla in the room that's been, actually more like a raging bull. They had a commercial a long time ago with a bull in a china shop. The bull was kicking over everything and knocking over everything and just, wreaking havoc. The bull in the china shop in the Black community is, of course, sexual abuse of children. And there is no more devastating, no more heinous, no more despicable, no more disgusting act than an adult sexually violating a child. If there's any, to be honest, just being completely honest, whenever this type of thing takes place, the proper response is for the person, if proven guilty now, with some type of verifiable evidence, that person should have an accident while on top of a roof and fall off the roof while attempting to wash windows of a building that's very high, at least 10 stories. That's pretty much the proper way to deal with that situation. The reason why so many other issues are in the Black community, the reason why there's so much animosity between Black men and Black women, is because this issue has not been properly addressed. Brother Irritated Genie has done work on this for decades, and he really has a magnificent presentation that he did. Is maybe about 15 years old now, where he really lays out the whole situation, and he lets the people know that are survivors, that they are not the problem, that it's not their fault, and just really lays out the behaviors that you'll see when this happens, and the signs to look for and changes in children. He really gets deep into all of that. And that presentation is called Predators in Our Midst. You probably could still find it on YouTube, even though they taken down his channel, but other people had posted it up on their channels before. And so if you have a chance to find that, if you can find that, you definitely want to there's something you want to purchase and have for your family. Not hopefully that no one has to deal with that issue in their family. But so many people have already been uh, violated. So many people are survivors that information is good to have. There's some healing tools in that, and I highly recommend that for anyone, for everyone, just to have, just in case. And we really have to. I was talking to, I've been talking, I actually talked to a couple of people about this week, and it's something I haven't really addressed in a while, and sometimes you kind of almost forget. But then when you start talking to people, and then the stories, whether it's their personal stories of family members, friends, sometimes stories of their compliments. Talking to Brother Jenny, he told me something that we had never talked about before that I'm gonna talk about shortly. You just realize that so many people in our community have been affected. He has given an estimation, and this was a while ago, that he believes um between 2 out of 3 and 3 out of 4 of our women have faced some type of sexual abuse before the age of 18. And he believes that 1 out of 4 to one half of our boys, our young men, face some type of sexual abuse before the age of 18. And one of the aspects of it now, that in itself, this discussion in itself is taboo in the Black community, right? This is taboo. But one aspect of it that's even more taboo because it's so unthinkable is the fact that more and more I'm finding out that children are victimizing younger children. And of course, more often than not, those children themselves have been victimized, and then they're carrying on behavior that they unfortunately learned by way of being being victims. And a sister told me a story about that I've known this for a while. I just never knew that she had that situation happen, when she was a child, at the hands of another child. And I had a friend, it was a brother that I was real, we was basically like brothers. We was tight, we was real close. And his younger brother was staying in another town. And his younger brother was almost raped by an older boy. In fact, they really caught the older boy, preparing to violate the young man. And so the sister said in this comment, she believes it's 1 out of 2. 1 out of 2, I'm assuming you mean 1 out of 2 boys. Um, so that part of children violating children is a part that we don't talk about. But when you start talking to people, they start talking about things that happened when they were young, with playing, with other kids or at sleepovers and these types of things that we kind of think of, or at least probably kind of thought of at that time, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, depending on your age, as being innocent. And really, you're putting your child at risk, not just from possibly the adults, but from the older children that may be there. You may send your child to play with one set of children. They may have older brothers and sisters, and they could possibly be doing something. And now there's you know, is boys, um, you know, molesting boys and girls molesting girls. So it's not even a thing of where you think, okay, well, I'll keep my daughter away from these boys. I won't let her go over their house. And then, you send them over there and there's a girl doing things. And so that aspect of there's like a double taboo topic. That aspect of sexual abuse is I almost never hear anybody talk about it. And yet, when I talk to people privately, this is something that I hear more and more and realize because these people I'm talking to are adults that this is something that's been going on way longer than I thought. And it's just something that I didn't really, I didn't really just think that it was going on as much as it apparently is. And so I'm gonna be honest, I don't have I don't have answers for how we deal with children who are a threat to other children. Like I don't know how we deal with a 13-year-old that touches a 9-year-old or an 11-year-old that touches an 8-year-old or 10-year-old touches a 6-year-old. I don't know how we deal with that because I'm not even sure at these ages, these pre-teenage ages, which is scary to me that it's happening that some of these people are pre-teenagers. They're not even teenagers that are doing this stuff. I'm not even sure they even can comprehend that heinousness of the act that they're doing. And so if that's the case, then how do you address it? Um, if anyone has answers, when I say I'm asking, I'm reaching out for ideas. I have no idea how to address this, what we can do as a community. Our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby, has decided to join us. Greetings, wonderful producer. And Sister Vanessa says, that's so true. I was never allowed to go over anyone's house for sleepovers. And now you know why. And we have 7779311, but I still don't know who that is. They are in the building. Greetings to you. And like this, like I said, this is like the taboo topic within the taboo topic of the sexual abuse issue. Also, is another aspect that I didn't. This is something, sometimes you see something and you just like, wow, boy, I wish I could unsee that. This is a topic that I saw years ago doing some research, probably for a lecture. Saw it, looked at it, and it's like, nah, I can't deal with this right now. And then I was talking to Brother Genie this morning, in fact, and he said that, oh no, yeah, brother, that's real. That's going on in the black community. And I didn't, I know that the brother, like, he deals with this stuff, so he hears all types. He hears more stories than me, and I hear a lot. To a point where I have to take a break sometimes. To me, this is the most insane thing in the world. But then again, I might have to retract that statement. There's a lot of insanity in this world. Sexual abuse of boys by their mothers is something I never hear anyone talking about. To the point where I didn't like the idea of black people doing that was not something I could believe. That black women would violate their sons. It's not something I couldn't believe. But then you start looking at certain behaviors, and a sister made a post, but I didn't get actually listen. She was commenting, but she had a video up on Instagram, but I didn't actually look at it. And She had a picture of a sister who was like wearing lingerie or a bikini or something like that. And she was in the picture with her son. She was like on her knees, and her son was in front of her. And he was, all he had on was like some boxer shorts or something. And I've seen pictures like that. And I've seen other things. And I've seen how sisters talk about call their son their little man and stuff like that. And you start seeing this stuff, and you suddenly realize it's right in front of you, but you don't want to see it for what it is. And so brother Jenny told me that he was talking to someone. I believe that the brother had some type of program for boys. And he said, was talking to the brother, and he's like, "Oh yeah, 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 I know you. You know the organization that Jenny used to be in. Yeah, so forth, so on. Yeah, how you doing?" And they were talking. They were talking about the boys. He's like, "Yeah, brother, it's rough. I'm glad y'all doing the work y'all doing. This sexual abuse stuff is crazy." And Jenny said he's like, "Yeah, yeah, man, we got these dudes running around raping our sons and blah 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 blah." And the brother was like, "Yeah, yeah, no, that's terrible. What I'm talking about, man. I got multiple young men in my program that's been violated by their mother." And Janie said it, his jaw almost hit the floor. Like that's not what he was expecting at all. And this, and so when I said we're gonna talk about taboo subjects, I don't think there's no subject more taboo than that. Because I've never heard. I can't even. It's something that I couldn't fathom, and it's something I've been studying. And then when I saw that, yeah, it's something that's real, people giving their testimony on YouTube, it still was like, okay, that's a white people thing. And a sister said they'd be like, "Hey King, you the man of the house." Little boy be like 8 years old. Exactly. um and so I just tried to avoid the reality that this is something that could be happening in our communities by our women. And I mean, I don't even know. Sister said that's the worst betrayal ever. Yeah, right. Like I've never heard any brother admit that. I don't even know how. I don't know how, as a young man, you could even process that. Like I don't. I can't. I can't process it just thinking about it. But this is a real thing that's happening in our community, and it's something that's going to have to be addressed. We always talk about how or at least not me. I talk about how the lack of black women being protected from sexual abuse when they're young feeds the gender war, feeds the feminism, and feeds the hatred of black men by black women. But stuff like this, without question, is feeding the other side, but no one's talking about it. We don't even know what's going on. I don't know nobody that's in the black community that's talked about it before I did this show. And that wasn't even the primary part of it that I want to talk about. But I mean, this is because everything is getting worse in our community. I have to assume that this is getting worse. And because we're now up to like 7 out of 10 children being raised in a single parent household, who really knows what's going on in some of these houses? All of these sisters are not qualified to raise children. All these sisters are not healthy. Some of these sisters, they have been abused themselves. There's a lot of psychological trauma that we're walking around with collectively, not just from an African-centered psychological perspective of dealing with racism, white supremacy, and all those things, but then just from the European psychological perspective, just sick things that we're dealing with that are manifesting in ways that are just horrible. The sister says preventative measures by discussing hormones and sensations once it is noticed that children have discovered sensations. Yeah, those discussions have to be had. I don't think that and that discussion in itself highlights the importance of fathers because it's easier for a man, I think, to possibly recognize certain behaviors and be able to talk to his son about how to deal with certain feelings and things that he may be discovering. And she also says therapy should include providing knowledge to the child who committed the violation, who committed the chat is moving on me, the violation, and reconditioning of the child's perception of appropriate sexual activity. And then the sister said abuse don't be at the friend's house, it be at your own family, the people you're supposed to trust, cousins, uncles, aunts, grandparents, actual parents, henceforth runaways, suicides, and so forth. All of that is true. All of that is true. And it's gotten to the point where I've heard of basically multiple generations being violated by like the same uncle or whatever, and literally women grooming their children to be violated by the man that violated them. That's how intrinsic it is in within some some families. Um, some families have moved away from other families, and you don't know why, and that can be a reason why. So there's a lot of underlying issues and traumas with the whole sexual abuse situation. Um, the next thing on the list, unless anyone else had something else that they want to add to that. And I did a show a while ago on sexual abuse in the Black community. I'm going to do another show on that. And what I will do is I will the open up the forum for people to tell their stories, and they can, you can keep your identity. You don't have to reveal your identity is what I'm trying to say. Um, and but I think it's important for people to tell their stories so that it's real to people, that they know that this is something that has taken place, and it's putting a face to it, or a voice to it in this case. I think makes it more real for people. Next on, a sister say, could a lot of this be due to chemicals some believe have been put in the water and food, which is over sexualizing our children? I believe it's the food. Excuse me. I believe it's the entertainment. I believe the subliminal messages within the cartoons. It's a lot of stuff going on, and so I don't even think it's one thing. One thing I found out about the European is that when they attack us, they usually attack us in a multiplicity of ways, and so we have trouble identifying them, and we have a tendency, excuse me, to point to one thing, and it's multiple things that are taking place, and then we get confused because we argue when we're all right. Sometimes we like, no, it's this or it's this, and now it's actually all those things, and we'll get confused and argue amongst ourselves while they continue their plans of destruction of the Black family and the Black community. But next, I want to talk about a related um, topic. I'm trying to think what order I'm going. I want to talk about a related topic, which is the topic of younger, not even with girls, um, dealing with older boys/men, and the enabling of this by the family. So this is what I mean. I have to give an example because it's really hard to for me to really talk about without giving an example of what I mean. So um I've known people when I was younger that have found themselves in situations where They may meet a young lady, however they meet her, right? Um, and sometimes they may meet the person through somebody that knows them. So the person that knows them knows how old the young lady is. And they'll tell the person that the young lady is, let's say for the sake of this discussion, let's say the guy's 20, they tell him the girl's 17, right? He goes over the girl's house. He meets her mother or whatever. It's obvious how old he is. Sometimes he's even older. Sometimes he might be 23, 24. So it's obvious he's a man, probably have a beard, mustache, whatever. Their daughter is high school age. Now, there was a time where you go in, you that age, you're 23, 24, something, you're a man, you're going to see somebody's daughter and they like, yeah, how can I help you? Oh, well, I mean, say your daughter, and I know you're not, you're a grown man, get out of here. But these situations I'm talking about, I've known situations where women were happy that their daughters were dealing with an older man in hopes of this is what I've come to deduce, because they may have multiple children that they're dealing with, or they're in poverty, and the fact that a man can come and will take their daughter out, or buy her clothes or shoes, take her out to dinner, things like that. That's one less mouth for them to feed. That's less money that they spend on clothes and things like that. And instead of the family protecting the daughter from the older man, who will a lot of times the girl will lie and then the people will lie. The family won't refute the lie. Everybody's in the lie together except for the guy. And because the mother sometimes is hoping to pawn off the daughter on this man so she doesn't have to take care of her anymore. Again, we talk about taboo subjects in the Black community. No one wants to talk about this. And this is one of those men barbershop conversations that women don't hear, because no man really wants to even talk about it, because they're not sure, am I a pedophile? Am I, I don't know, man, I didn't know how old she was. They told me this, all of these types of things. And because we haven't really set any rules in the Black community on what is an appropriate and inappropriate relationship, it gets real nebulous and real weird. Because the thing that's weird about it to me is, and I'm not sure how things are now. And the brother says several of R. Kelly's victims were actually given to him by the little girl's parents. That I haven't even the whole R. Kelly thing I haven't even delved into, so I don't know if that's the case or not. But at the same time, I can't say that I would be completely shocked just because of what we're talking about here. That's a little more extreme, because I don't know how old he was when that was taking place, but I can see it because I'm sure he was a millionaire at that time. Sister said, enabling families who turn a blind eye to an older male inappropriately dating a minor child because he provides something the family lacks, i.e. food, liquor, gifts. Right. And I see this a lot. And well, I can't say I see this a lot, but I've heard this a lot. And most of the time when it's happened, it was a single mother with no father around that helped, in essence, help facilitate the situation. Being completely honest, I had not seen it with a complete family, but again, these brothers that have told me these stories, they were nowhere near millionaires or anything else, because a lot of times they were in their early 20s. And I narrowly avoided a situation just like that. And come to find out that the young lady was dealing with somebody, the person they were dealing with before I met her was much older than me. And when I saw him, he looked like a grown man. I was maybe 19 or 20. This dude looked like he's 30 years old. And so, and he was dealing with her before I met her, which means she was even younger. And so, yeah, but this man came in and knocked on the door, and the mother went to the door and talked to him and knew who he was. It wasn't like, it wasn't like, yeah, it was just surreal. It was crazy. And this was years ago. This was years ago, you know? And so I can only imagine the types of things that are going on now because, like I always say, everything is worse. Everything in our community is worse. And so that aspect of this whole pedophilia thing is something that never gets talked about. And like I said, we don't we haven't set parameters, and it's real weird because at least when I was young, if you were a senior in high school, you would never deal with a freshman, right? You just almost never saw that. But what's weird is that, and if you're in college, like past a sophomore, you won't deal with anybody in high school. But if you're not in school and you're a dude on the block, then those barriers don't exist, and you'll deal with a sister that's in her senior year of high school, whatever. If you're college age, and that's 19, 20, whatever. I just found that that's something I used to see in the community. It's real weird how those barriers, just having that this is high school, this is college, or this is just coming into high school, and this is the end of high school. How those things seem to deter men or boys or girls from looking at younger boys or girls. But then, as soon as you take those barriers away, if you will, then you start getting these type of questionable relationships. Um, so that was an aspect of sexual abuse that I wanted to talk about. That nobody talks about that part, to my knowledge, other than within the context of what the brother said, within the context of that whole R. Kelly situation, which I didn't delve into because the R. Kelly thing is something that we have been hearing rumors about for years. And for those who know, there's some people who tried to get to him. It became obvious to them that he was protected by people higher up than just people in the music industry. And that's all I'm gonna say on that, because that's a whole nother show. Another um, topic that's just related to this. If sisters are fortunate enough to make it to 18 without being sexually violated, then you have the whole college rape, date rape phenomenon when sisters go through the 18 to 22 range. And I don't hear this, and maybe because I'm not near any college. I'm not near college. Don't work at a college. Obviously, I'm not attending any classes. It's not something I hear about. But it's something that I knew a sister when I was in college, and she found herself in a situation where something very traumatic happened to her. And she was like a friend of mine. There's nothing going on between us like that. And you know how college is. You hear rumors of stuff, and then but nobody even tells you. You don't may not necessarily know who it is, and then the sister came up to me crying and hugging on me, and then I realized that she was the person that the rumors were about. And being completely honest, in a way, I guess I'm glad that I was far away from where I lived when I went to college. But it was also one of those things that I didn't. It's one of the reasons I left college. I never even told anybody that. I never told my parents that or anything like that, because the thought that, and of course I was already studying in the Nation of Islam at that time. The thought that black men, or black, I get, yeah, young men, I guess you're in college, would do something that heinous to a black woman and no one would kill them, was something I just couldn't. I just couldn't. I couldn't sit in an environment like that and be focused. I've just never been one of those people, and it's just one of those things that I just couldn't deal with. The chances of me making it, 3 more years in that institution without some type of violent act taking place, that would probably have me in jail or dead, because this was, of course, years ago, where most altercations ended with somebody black being in jail, excuse me, somebody being dead. Um, yeah, just I could not I just couldn't fathom that more people weren't outraged. And of course now, with everything going on, that the atmospheres are different. And I went to HBCU at that, so it made it even worse. And I'm not even sure that the sister even went and told everybody uh, what took place. Um, but yeah, that was seeing something like that happen to a friend was traumatic to me in a way that I don't think I've ever really addressed or talked about. And as men, like we really have dropped the ball with cleaning up the things in our community that need to be cleaned up in the way that only can be cleaned up by men. And you know, the violation of our women, the fact that people are allowed to breathe after that, we're not going to be able to build anything till we deal with that. And like I said, you have sisters that may survive. And what was so crazy, God, I forgot about this part. What was so crazy is that happened, right, while I was away in school. And then a sister that I was interested in high school, but I went away from school. I remember talking to her when I came back, like a year after I came back to the city, and we were talking, and then she told me that she had been the year I left, that she had been violated um, by some guy she was on a date with, and she wouldn't tell me who he was and wouldn't give me any information. I guess she figured that I guess she knew me well enough. Some of the brothers that I ran with. Sometimes I ran with people that they were just down for, if I was like, hey man, we got to do XYZ. They just like, oh, I've been waiting. Let me get my stuff. But yeah, that was just like, it was heartbreaking because the sister was so nice and sweet, and a good sister, and just to hear her, open up her heart to me and tell me that, it was just like, I was just like, man, what the hell is going on, really, at that point? Now, you have to understand, this stuff I'm talking about, this stuff happened when I was 18, 19, 20. So I'm not even at the age to get out of college where sisters are going through these things. And I know they're not telling their parents or people in authority or things like that. And yet they feel comfortable enough with me to open up to me to tell these things. And at that age, you're not even fully in your manhood to even know how to process and address it. Um, so yeah, it was crazy, and I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, how do I leave this institution because of this nonsense? And then I come back to the real world, and here we are. And I got a sister tell me about this, and it's just like if your house was on fire and every room's on fire. So where do you put out the fire? And that's probably where my passion for discussing these things come from, with just these experiences as a young man, and realizing just the type of things that sisters would go through, that the minefield that they have to go through just to try to make it to adulthood, and then that doesn't mean that things don't happen in adulthood. You know, um, so yeah, that whole college scene, and I believe somebody talked about the armed forces. I would never recommend no sister join the armed forces. Um, that's just an environment of savagery and barbarity. And people can say whatever they can call me misogynist, whatever they want. I don't believe no women should be in the armed forces. I don't believe no women should be in no close quarters like that with men, and no barracks, or no battlefield, or no submarine, ship, or things like that. You get all that extra heightened testosterone and aggressiveness and alcohol and that locker room culture, and then you throw some women into the mix. That's just to me, that's completely insane. It's completely insane, and it causes a volatile mix. And men won't say it, but I know many men resent having what they think of as a man's space violated by a woman. And I look, what's the sister's name that the Uru got away with raping? I think sister name is Lavina Johnson. If I'm incorrect, somebody help correct me. Sister was in the armed forces, um, and she was raped and murdered, and Lavina, yeah, Lavina Johnson, um, she was in the military, and they never I saw an interview actually with her father, and they've never found anyone guilty. They've never really done an investigation. Uh, she wasn't even. I didn't realize she was this young. She wasn't even 20 years old, and she had served in Iraq, and um they murdered and violated the sister. But these types of things. I'm just say this, sisters. I know y'all been talking about this equality and all this stuff, and you know, look, let's just be realistic. Europeans are complete savages and barbarians, and putting yourself in a situation where you have to deal with them anything more than a couple of hours at a time is completely insane. Period. That goes for any black man, woman, or child on earth. Putting yourself in a situation where you are in a combat situation, or where you're around Urugu and they're armed and drinking alcohol and suffering from PTSD is, as a parent, that's criminal negligence to allow your daughter to be in that situation. I don't care what she thinks or what she wants to do. You're not doing that. You shooting at the wrong people. I don't care who's on the other side. Because those people in the military, a lot of the people that go into the military are insane when they walk in there. And then you get a wartime environment. It's complete madness. And so that's just never received any justice. I don't even think she ever even received any. I think they just covered the whole thing up. And that's been, if I'm not mistaken, that may be over 10 years ago. But I had talked about it before a couple of shows ago. I think with dealing with protection of black women. You can't step outside the boundaries of black men and then claim you want protection. A lot of these situations, they're only preventable by being in an environment that people can completely control. The sister said, that's why I don't allow Urugu in my social circles. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's going to sound completely insane when I say this, but I believe Urugus irradiate evil like people give off body heat. And if you stay in their midst too long, you just start doing Urugu stuff and won't even realize it. And when somebody calls you on it, you're looking around like it's crazy. And so that whole college date rape, military rape thing is something that we don't uh we don't talk about in the black community. Um, Next on the list I want to talk about, and it's probable that for each one of these topics, I will end up doing a whole show. And like I said, having get a guest or guests on dealing with these issues. Um, Another thing we don't talk about is a huge thing, and it may affect more people than than we know. And it's not really related to the two previous things, thankfully, because I think I've had enough of that. Paternity fraud. When you talk about something that nobody, you talk about something that nobody wants to talk about, something that people want to act like does not exist. When I stumbled into, and I don't even know what in the world I was looking for. There's times where I just research stuff, or sometimes I just think about something and like, let me look at this. Paternity fraud is something that is so much more common than anyone will admit. And you always see these stories on you should, I don't know if he's still on or not, but you used to see the Maury Povich show, and they have these girls on, and the whole "you're not the father" thing, that thing. Okay, again, me at that time thinking I'm looking at a television show that is sensationalizing ridiculous things that aren't really happening. That's how I was looking at it. Then you start actually looking at what's going on, and you realize, oh, this is an actual issue. This is not something that they're making up for television. This is real. And I've seen percentages that say um and I'm going to just read this real quick. It says that these numbers suggest that the widely quoted and unsubstantiated figure of 10% of non-paternal events is overestimate. However, in studies that solely looked at couples who obtained paternity testing because paternity was being disputed, there were higher levels in incidence of 17 to 33%. The median, excuse me, being 26.9. These are people who are testing, right? The estimates are 1 out of 4. The people who aren't testing are probably higher, because those are people that are married and whatnot, and the man's thinking that he's not thinking that his wife is not only out there messing around, but is producing children with other people and passing the children off as his. I've seen testimonies on YouTube of men telling their stories. It's so crazy that I saw a man who hadn't been with a woman for years before she got pregnant put his name on the birth certificate, and he had to jump through all types of legal hoops to try to get his name off the birth certificate. Had did a DNA test, brought the DNA test to the judge. The judge refused to look at the DNA test and said, well, you were paying, so you're going to continue to pay. That's how crazy this is. It's when you talk about taboo, it's so taboo that judges don't even want to hear it when you bring evidence that exonerates you from being the child's father, because somebody has to pay. The percentages are between 1 in 6 to 1 in 3. You talk about taboo subjects that nobody wants to talk about. Who else have you heard really talk about this subject? Who else has given you the percentages that this could be a one that out of every three people born in the United States, one of them is born to someone or believes that some person is their father that's not their father. How many women are getting in some type of, y'all forgive me for using this word, but it's the word that came to mind, entanglements, where they're getting pregnant by side dudes and whatever other names that you want to have for some of these people, and passing that child off as their main boyfriends, or there's a situation where they're two or three guys, they're not sure. So the guy that makes the most money, the guy that's the most stable, they pass it off on him. It's just all types of wild variants of these scenarios. How many people are walking around mad at someone for being their father and not being in their life, and that man ain't even the father and don't even know you exist? How much of that is taking place? The brother said, "Man, if you had a call-in show, I could tell you a story." Bro, I think a lot of men have some type of story, whether some type of close call or one of their friends or things like that. But again, taboo subjects. No one wants to talk about. No one wants to address that women would be so. I guess devious is the word I'm looking for. That they would pass off a child that, and I believe most of the time women know. Um, let's see, what does the sister say? That's why when I'm getting to know a man, I ask him if he has any children that it, will ask him if he has any children that he doesn't know about. He'll usually look at me crazy then, and that's when I'll ask him if he's gone back to check to see. Hold up, I got too many people in the chat. Um, check to see if he has any children. There are some trifling women out here that will not tell a man that she's pregnant with his child, but will wait years later. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have. It's funny you say that. I have checked with sisters a couple of times just to make sure. But if you're not in, like, if you're in a different location, short of you going to see that person, because if it's something where you break up, who knows? I mean, I've been in situations where I broke up with a sister, and um, come to find out that before we officially broke up, she was dealing with some other dude. So that can easily turn into the type of situation we're talking about here, where she finds out that dude ain't nothing, or he was using her as, as a sexual toilet, and then I had a good boyfriend. Let me pass it off on him. I've even had women joke about that. No, you a good man. I would blah blah blah. If I had a baby, blah blah. Yeah, don't even get me started. I mean, the fact that women would joke about it tells you all you need to know. Sister said undisciplined mismanagement of reproductive organs. Oh, yeah, I mean, let's just be realistic. A lot of us, some of us use drugs, some of us use alcohol, some of us use sex to deal with the stress of racism and white supremacy. And these are type of outcomes that you can have with those collisions. We're just crashing blindly into each other. But this is an issue, and I'm of the belief is that unfortunately anything that's happening in the greater community, it's happening much worse in our community. So whatever the percentages are overall, they are much higher in our community, and again, no one wants to talk about it. No one will address these issues and the types of conflict and disruption of our community, that because for a man to go his whole life not knowing his child, and then because sometimes, and I've heard about this in my own family, where somebody pass away and some grown person comes up and talking about, oh, I'm so and so's daughter, and everybody turns around and looks at them like, what? Who? You who? What are you talking about? So this is not new. Like, this is stories that I've been told by older people in my family, which means this stuff is going back, you know, decades. But this paternity fraud, this is a big thing, because I believe that women are that there are groups of women who are pinning, who basically pinning, excuse me, the pinning the baby on the man that they feel is most suitable to take care of the child, even though that's not the man that they wanted to be with the most. There's a lot of that going on. Um, and I think I'm gonna go to about. I think I'm gonna go about 90 minutes, so I won't be able to get to everything on the list. If anybody has something on the list that they would like to add, now is the time. Um, and I'm just going to address this one shortly, but colorism. And it's so funny because I was like, yeah, man, I'm gonna talk about colorism, and I'm gonna do a show on colorism. I actually have some beautiful dark skinned sisters that I know, um, and I had talked to them, and I wanted them to share their experiences. But it was so funny as an aspect of it that I didn't think about. But when I thought about it, I was like, oh, I know it's real. I just didn't know it was still going on. What a brother hit me up, DM me, and was like, yeah, man, you talk about colorism. So I'm thinking that, he's thinking about it from the way I'm thinking about, like, the types of ridicule and whatnot that sisters especially um, experience when they're young. And like the whole positive dark skinned woman thing is like new type of thing. Sister said, my family just found out this year that my uncle had a daughter that he never knew he had. He's been dead for 15 years. Her mother didn't tell her who her father was until right before she died. There it is. There it is. I'm sure if we all look at deep enough in our family, we all have those. His sister said there are men who are aware of their child, and the female will refuse to allow the father to have a relationship child because the female had married a meal ticket. Yeah, yeah, that too. But a lot of times they don't tell the man. They, you know, they pass it off. A lot of times women pass it off from the beginning. Like, they have a plan to pass this off when they're pregnant. They're like, oh nah, I gotta convince Fred that it's his, because Mike ain't got no job. Um, but back to the colorism. The brother dropped something in my DM. He like, yeah, man, you gotta talk about this colorism, man. There's something we gotta talk about, because I had asked for topics, and then when I saw so many different topics, I was like, you know what, this is what I need to do. I just do a taboo topics, things that we don't talk about, and I can touch on each one of these and possibly do a show on um, all of them individually. What I can get even deeper into it, and so when he's talking about colorism, I'm thinking he's thinking what I'm thinking, like, the stuff that dark skinned sisters go through. And even when I was young, dark skinned brothers, I had a brother I used to roll with tight, real dark skinned brother, real coarse hair, whatever, truly African looking brother. And he used to catch some hell. And I'm ashamed to say that I didn't always defend him from that. Not always. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And we was like best boys. He's part of little crew. So yeah, that's a thing. But what the women face is, excuse me, is worse. And because of our self hatred, because of our hatred of our features, our hatred of course of Africa, you know, and just I mean, I've seen two different clips. I saw a clip where a little girl said that, she said she was ugly, which means she had been told that from somebody at school and maybe even somebody in the house, and that went viral. Then I saw another thing which was really crazy with a little brown skinned baby. Um, I guess she was used to her mother wearing weaves or wigs or whatever, but somebody took the weave away from her and she started crying. This is a little girl, maybe 2 years old or something. The colorism produces the self hatred, which produces a whole lot of other things in our community. But what the brother wanted to talk about, which was so weird, but I know it's real because it's something we used to say back in the day. He was like, "Yeah, man, I had a sister tell me that she don't want to deal with me because I'm light skinned," and I just I paused and I thought about it. I said, I didn't think that this was still a thing. Like, depending on maybe it depends on how old you are, maybe it depends on where you grew up. But there is a perception, or there has long been a perception in our community that light skinned men are less masculine and dark skinned women are less feminine. And I don't think we've ever gotten past those stereotypes. I think those things still exist. We just don't talk about it. Like nobody comes out and says it. But like a lot of these forums here on YouTube with a lot of these brothers, they talk about black women not being feminine. Some of that is they're talking about behavior. Some of that is valid. But some of that is just their hatred for dark skinned sisters. Like you can almost hear when they say it, they're not talking about light skinned black women. Although light skinned black women have attitude, act crazy, act ratchet, do all types of wild shenanigans. But you in their commentary, you can hear that's not who they talking about. So the whole colorism thing is something that no one wants to address because no one wants to admit that, like for example, no guy wants to publicly say, well, I would prefer light skinned women because they know that we all gonna say, oh, you a coon. So they ain't gonna admit it. Meanwhile, sisters will be teased from a young age and will grow up with that self hatred and grow up with that lack of self esteem, and that causes a lot of issues. That causes a lot of you know acting out and some hypersexuality and looking for love in other people that needs to be within self. Causes all those things. And the brother said the rappers in the '80s were always promoting light skinned women. I don't remember that in the '80s. I remember in the '90s. But I mean, we see that we see the psychological problems that Little Kim had, and I don't. Little Kim was light skinned to me, and she's gone to bleach and had surgeries and all types of stuff. Little Kim was like light brown, so I didn't even understand where that came from. I'm like, how do you sit next to uh, what was the other sister that the rapper? I think she was from the islands. Um, Foxy Brown. I'm like, how you sit next to Foxy Brown, think you're dark skinned, and have a problem with your self image as a black woman, and that's your best friend? I never understood that, other than the fact that I knew that her situation with her and Biggie and Faith, she thought that Biggie loved Faith more because Faith was light skinned, but Faith was a whole mulatto. She wasn't even black. But that's another show. But yeah, that colorism and that perception of black women being less dark skinned black women being less feminine and light skinned men being less masculine. That's something that goes way back, and we try to act like it doesn't exist. And the sister said, sisters out here wearing makeup, making themselves 5 shades lighter and bleaching their skin. Right. I mean, skin bleaching on the continent is unreal. The self hatred on the continent makes the self hatred here look like child's play in a lot of cases. And it is, and on the islands too. But it wasn't until maybe about 5, 6 years ago that I realized on the islands, like in Jamaica, they were skin bleaching. And I had always thought of Jamaican people being a proud people and being proud of their skin, their African heritage, and things like that. Those are the only Jamaicans I had met. You know, I was surprised when I actually met my first light skinned Jamaican. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm Jamaican." I heard the accent. I'm looking at him like, "How? You light skinned?" But you know, now, the self hatred has manifested. It's almost like uh since integration that we've gone backwards psychologically, and being around them, we want to be like them, and that self hatred that we always had because they implanted it in us, and we're worshiping white gods and things like that. It's manifesting itself in ways that didn't manifest before because I guess because we couldn't. Well, they had skin lightening. They would advertise for this stuff back. Let me stop. They would advertise for this stuff back literally 100 years ago. But I don't know. I, I just think it's some type of way it's worse now, and maybe I think it's worse because we should know better. We had a whole Black is Beautiful phase, and yet here we are, um, with these discussions. And like the brother said, in the media, the propagation of the light skin and not just light skin, but foreign hybrid, as I like to call them, women, as you get from, I remember seeing it anyway, starting in the mid 90s and moving forward. And then you had, I think it was the Source magazine, don't quote me. And they had when the video vixen became a thing, um, and all the video vixens I remember, basically, when I think back on them now, they either were light skinned, Latina, or mixed. So those were the women that were getting paid the most and getting the most exposure. The ones that had made a career out of appearing in a video, usually half naked. Most of those were, as I think somebody put earlier, passing the paper. They had to pass the paper bag test. And so said wearing weaves because you feel like your hair is too inferior, but wearing the spirit of another person on your head is crazy. Man. Oh man. I'm not gonna deal with the weave today. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna leave it alone. It speaks for itself. I just think it's one of the most insane things in the world. I said I'm gonna leave it alone, but a quick story. Like the first time, and weave has been out longer than I knew. Um, Longer than I knew, but my first like experience with weave is when it was a sister that lived in my neighborhood, and she was obviously attracted to me, and she lived like right around the corner. And so sometimes I walk the neighborhood or whatever, walk with my boys or whatever the case may be, and she would talk, and I stopped talking to her, whatever. And it was one of those situations where you see somebody and they're attractive, but you're not like, you just not, you ain't feeling them like that. As a brother, just I'm gonna give her a little secret. Sometimes she's like, okay, I can put her in a pocket until I get what I really want. One of those type things. And I went to her house one time and we were sitting outside and she commences to taking the weave out her hair. And I don't know what the look on my face said. I probably was, probably was horrified because I had never seen nothing. I had never seen nothing like this. Didn't know anything about it. And she looked at me like, I ain't bald headed under here. In my mind, I was like, oh my God, if that's fake, what else is fake? That's what I was thinking. That's my weave story. That was my first interaction with weave in my early, maybe mid-20s. Sister said, Melissa Ford. Yeah, I remember Melissa Ford and Sophia Vergara. I remember the name, but I don't remember what she looked like. Yeah, yeah, those were two of the big video vixens of that era. Um, there's there's one other thing I want to talk about real quick before I get out of here. The whole, and this is a touchy subject, a touchy situation, but this situation now with this Me Too and how it is making legitimate claims of abuse, sexual violation, and things like that iffy. All that whole array of stuff. This is something that we don't want to talk about. Women can, in this environment, and have. I believe there was some big thing, and I haven't followed it a lot, between Johnny Depp and I can't even think of the white woman's name, but he's dealing with some younger white broad. And she accused him of all types of stuff and being abusive and this and this and that. And then come to find out that I think she's had sent him text messages basically threatening to do this. And so all that came up. And so these types of things are worse because domestic violence is domestic violence is a major problem in our community. But at the same time, you know good and well, if a rich white woman would do something like that, we know a vindictive black woman would do the same thing. And another aspect to the domestic violence thing that makes this thing even more cloudy is that, and I was talking to some brothers about this, the taboo part that we don't talk about, because we do talk about domestic violence. That's something we will talk about. No one talks about the aspect of black women putting their hands on black men. That's the taboo part. The other way around, we'll talk about that all day. The black women hitting black men, nobody wants to talk about that because, one, no black man wants to admit it. But I've actually seen this stuff, and it's like, it's so weird. Even myself, I'm so biased that I don't even think about it as domestic violence. I'm literally watching a woman act a fool and swing on her man, and I'm just like, wow, shorty out of pocket, she acting crazy. I'm not thinking, oh, this domestic violence, that's stuff. I'm a man. I don't even put the two things in the same category. But it doesn't mean that it's not happening. It doesn't make it right. And that's what makes it so taboo, because even men don't even look at it like that. So women not gonna look at it that way. And yet their brother, and I remember it's been, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, a brother made a post about it. And I remember looking at it and like, yeah, whatever. Just blew it off. but it's a subject that we won't even broach, subject we won't even discuss. And you have all types of, for women, you have all types of, they have all types of support systems. They have all types of, um, sister said, that's true. I've known some black females that like to fight and fight men. Yeah. And I mean, I've seen sisters like this. Man, I don't even know how long ago this was, but I saw a video. This woman was, this was a big woman, like big, tall, had was eating too much, big in all those areas, with a short, skinny guy, and she's just, just straight abusing this man, and he wouldn't defend himself, and just cussing him out and grabbing on him, yanking on him, grabbing like his, I think she grabbed his hat and like, threw his hat. Yeah, I mean, just it was insane, and this was in the public. This was in broad daylight. Well, maybe it wasn't broad daylight, but they were outside in the public, and someone had taken the video. And looking back on it, you're like, well, if this is going on, that's what's going on between them out here. What Lord knows what they going through in his home. And it's so bad. I never understood this at first, because I know people that was in law enforcement. I never understood until I kind of looked at it, why the police would come and just lock up everybody involved. But that's why. Because now what was seen as a one-sided thing, and probably was a one-sided thing, because men had more testosterone, has now become a nebulous thing where instead of abuse, you just got a fight between a man and a woman who thinks she a man. And the man don't want to tell the story. Oh, what happened, sir? Like, oh, what? Who was it? I forgot. Who was it? Bow Wow? Was it him? Somebody help me out. A year ago or something, where he got arrested. The girl got arrested. His face was all scratched up. Looked like nothing happened to her. And everybody laughed about it. Oh man, Bow Wow lost to his girl. That right there. If Bow Wow had a punched her in her face and knocked her out and her face swole up, it'd be all types of wife beaters. But he lost. Now he's a joke. So, I mean, the toxicity in our relationships overall, it manifests in so many different ways. And one thing, getting back to what I started with, the complementarity conference, those that prescription, if you will, you can call it a spiritual prescription of taking time out to manage your relationship, to taking time out to get away from everybody else, to get away from the stresses of the world, to just be with each other and to interact and to talk and to enjoy each other in the manner that you enjoyed each other when the things were good, is something that are mandatory for us to maintain sanity within our relationships. And if you get to a point where you can't, where everything is an argument, and you sought counseling, I mean, I hate to say it, you just have to get away from each other, because we can't have violence in our interpersonal relationships between black men and black women. We just can't have it. It's so destructive that it everybody in a situation like that, everybody around it is affected, regardless of what takes place, or who who did or said what or whom or whatever. It's destructive. And we have to, as Black people, have tools that we have. Sister said, as a whole, we're extremely damaged. Yes, we are. We have to have tools. Um, what does sister say? I'm the support system for the men in my village. And that is the village concept. We have to get back to the village concept. And within the village concept, we have to have respect for the elders when they make a decision. It can't be something where we have elders that we all claim we respect, and then we go to the elders, and then the elders say something, or they make a recommendation, and then, well, I don't like what the elders said, so they ain't relevant no more. If we're gonna be African, that we can't do that. That can't be it. But as African people, we're going to build anything. We have to have like clear lines of delineation, clear lines of communication. And unfortunately, because we're not the Africans we were before meeting with Europeans, we're going to have to literally write down guidelines for every single thing. Like, people don't understand the 42 laws of Mayat came about after us dealing with Europeans. So we had to write the laws out because we had lost our traditions and ways that we didn't have to write out before. You didn't have to tell people not to do certain stuff before. But then you start get Europeans start coming around and you start seeing people lose their tradition. You're like, oh, I gotta spell this out to people. They forgot we don't steal. Gotta write it down. Then we had to give it to Europeans in a form that they could understand to try to clean them up. And that's the stuff that you find in the Bible. But all of these topics, and there are unfortunately many more, and I could go into all of them, so much more. All of these are things that we don't want to talk about in our community, and we don't want to talk about in any depth, and we don't want to talk about them in the aspect that I talked about them. If we talk about them, we talk about them in a one-sided way at best. The sexual abuse, we just, we don't talk about that. Let's just be honest. We don't talk about that. We try to cover it up. We all know. And God, something else I wanted. Something else. I'm looking at the list, and then this just occurred to me. It's another thing dealing with the rape. We talk, and I don't know how I almost missed this, because this, what I'm about to talk about, helps facilitate some of the other stuff like the sexual abuse, right? But nobody wants to talk about it. And in fact, it helps facilitate the sexual abuse, and then it'll help facilitate the domestic violence. Here we are. We talked about the rape. We talked about the sexual abuse of children, boys and girls. We talked about the rape of sisters, that college age, which is a very dangerous time for sisters. You know what I forgot to talk about? The rape and the other sexual degeneracy that is learned where? In the penitentiary. Wow. Men and women, but I'm focused on men for this one, are incarcerated with other men. We all know this is something that takes place. We all know this is something that has taken place for years. There's no more taboo subject to talk with a person that's been incarcerated than talk about rape in the in these institutions. The rape of men by other men. This is one of the most taboo subjects there is. And it's so funny that was not funny. That this is something that people have joked about for years, but nobody wants to talk about and take seriously. Do we really think that all these men are going into prison for 10 years and longer and not engaging in no sexual activity whatsoever? We know that's not the case. So what's going on? Between the rape that takes place and then the what I like to call, for lack of a better word, conditioned homosexuality that takes place. Then we forget those people who got used to that. It's a prison buck breaking, exactly. Those people who get used to that type of behavior of being predator or prey, many times predator and prey, bring that predatory mentality out into our community, and no one talks about it. This is an issue we don't want to address at all. I remember a brother Kush the Black Unifier from local organization PKV that brother Irritated Genie started his path out in. He did a video and he talked about this, and he talked about how there was a brother inside that was fighting against rape in prison, and he had gang members try to attack him. Now, big, strong, 6'4", 260 type brother had people try to attack and rape him because he was fighting against the rape in the prison. How bad is something that you will attack a black man of that size when in any other situation you don't want no smoke? That you're willing to defend your insane death style in that environment, that you will attack him and try to make him a victim. We don't talk about it. Then when the men come home, and my brother said this one time, brother I used to hang with a long time ago, he's like, sisters don't even ask. The dude went in with a fade and he come out with fresh cornrows. Who was doing his hair while he was there? Right? What was taking place? I talked to brothers that were incarcerated for a long time. We talk about this newfound love of supposedly straight men for these transsexuals. That's a topic I ain't talking about, but it's related to this topic. Where's that behavior learned? Let's be real. Oh, I'm just be honest. A black woman got everything you need. I don't care what you're talking about. I ain't trying to get into it because it turned into a vulgar discussion, but you understand what I'm saying. Where does the need for something that women can't provide come from? Many men weren't doing that when they were out, but they go in and then they come back and all of a sudden they engage in this type of behavior. On the down low, or even worse than the down low, messing with another man that's in a dress, treating him like a woman. Where you learn that at? There's one place we know where that happens. This explosion of homosexuality and transgenderism that we see in our community. We didn't see this in the 60s. We didn't see it in the 70s. Yeah, there was some homosexuality, but not like what we're seeing now. You ain't see no big muscular dudes out here twerking. Where's that behavior learned? But we don't want to talk about the rape of men by men in the when they're incarcerated. Taboo subjects. I mean, let's be real. If we won't talk about rape of women in the military and women in college, we ain't talking about the rape of no man in no jail. other than to make light of it and laugh about it. But then when you just think about the type of havoc that wreaks on the psyche of a man and how that manifests in different ways when they get out in the world. All of a sudden, this person who was already had criminal excuse me, y'all know what I'm worried about. Tendencies, we'll say. Um, Now they've been violated, and they want to prove their manhood. So now they want to come and beat up and shoot up everything in sight. Serious the sister says in 2004 in Cleveland, Ohio, a chat room for what they termed homo thugs. They had a chat and a website. These males were violated in prison and came home twisted. Tim's, white tees, do rags, and all that. And sister said that's 2004. Like the type of psychological trauma that would cause, and the type of ways that would cause somebody to act out. Yeah, it's gonna cause them to rape proclivities. Thank you, BB40, man. You knew what I was trying to say. My tongue just wouldn't cooperate. That brother has an extensive vocabulary, so he knew exactly what I was talking about. I'm gonna get him on one day too. Um, but yeah, that type of experience will make you do the sexual abuse, the rape, and the domestic violence. And of course, we have a large number of men that have been incarcerated. So at some point, this gorilla is in the room tearing up stuff. We gotta address it. We don't have the facilities and the institutions necessary to deal with these things for people to make some attempt at readjustment to be their former selves as much as they can. But even if we did, it doesn't matter because we don't take the matter seriously. And as devastating as it is for a male child to get violated, how much more horrific is it for a grown man, especially a man who himself may be one who formerly was intimidating people and well versed in the use of violence to get things, for him to be violated in that way. I mean, we talking about super taboo topics. And then these people, like I said, they bring that damage home and cause all type of havoc in our community. Somebody says 79311 says basically all of the ills are a result of us as a group that lacks power and means to effectively protect ourselves, families, and black people in general. Yes, that is true. Um, and the dangerous thing is some of these things have been going on for multiple generations, so they're dangerously close to becoming part of our culture. I was talking to somebody and I said the scary thing now when it comes to women is that what was, when you study this thing, what was the manifestation of sexual abuse? Things like hypersexuality and tattoos and um, other things similar have now become black female culture for women under, I say under 35. So the not a tattoo, but the multiple tattoos, the wild colored hair, the multiple piercings, the all of these things that were manifestations of some type of trauma are now black female culture. It's standard to see in black women under 35. So now it becomes difficult to identify a person that's been traumatized from a person that hasn't, because the trauma, the manifestations of trauma have become the standard look and behavior of black women in general. That's that's how bad we are, and that's how dangerous it is, and that's how close it is to these things becoming our culture. Just like men sagging, which was something that occurred in jail to send a signal that a man is open to being violated sexually, has become standard black male, part of the standard black male uniform, if you will. Like I never thought that in 2020 that grown men would be still be sagging their pants. Like we're on the second, almost third generation of this thing. So that just shows how dangerous it is that if we don't address these issues, they become slowly creep in and become a part of our culture to the point where we don't even recognize that these things are a problem or come from or a manifestation of problems that we have in our community. We think that that's what black people do. And that's why the European is trying desperately to connect homosexuality and being black together, because they know we will carry it forth if we believe it as our culture. It's very much like Dr. John Henry Clark said, where he said that and he was talking about religion. It's the same concept, that we will out Pope the Pope and out Muhammad. And right now, many of us are trying to out Homo Urugu, who is the originator of it. And one more last thing, and this is crazy, and I just thought about it. So, okay, this is crazy. And y'all gonna be like, why you keep saying this is crazy? Because I'm processing what I'm talking about. Because something came to my mind. And then after that, we'll be gone. Okay. This is another thing. And I can't even believe I'm talking about it, but this is something that I've always put on as it's definitely part of European culture. It's something that I only saw white people doing. And as part of one of my lectures, right, I was researching, um, and I would tell you like this: you don't want to research the type of stuff that me and Brother Janie research to put out to the people, because the stuff you have to filter through to get to, I mean, oh man, make you want to throw up. So I know y'all like, oh man, come on, get to it. It's something that now I'm starting to see in our community. Cause unfortunately, I've seen it, so I know it's real. We're starting to take on the European, behavior of bestiality. Now, when I was researching, I found clips, of course, of white women, young white women at that, like talking about the basically make an ode to dog love, right? Like, oh, that's why you should do it, and this is great, and blah blah blah. I love my dog, that type of stuff. All types of weird stuff, all types of women kissing dogs, so forth, so on. They had a whole film about a man and his dog and a group he's part of, and all this, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, and I'm gonna show how people European being a European. This is easy. This is easy work. This is fun. I'm gonna expose them. People know about it, but they don't. They never seen it, so I'm gonna make sure they see it. Okay. And then I came across a video of a black woman and a dog. And the bad part is that when it come across stuff like that, I'm always like, okay, this is a one-off. This is just some crazy stuff, and I just happen to stumble upon it. And then you start talking to people, they're like, oh yeah, nah, man, I've been starting to hear about that lately, and this and that, and yeah, man, you see these girls, and they ain't got no man, they got that dog around. You got to be careful. And I'm just like, please, 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 tell me I'm tripping and we're not doing this. We're not doing this, not this, not this, not there has to be something that we don't do. And this is the line where we cannot go down this road. And sister says, so what you're saying is we're going to have to get rid of some folks in the worst way. I'm saying everybody's not going to make it. And brother BB for ODA man says he said he got the same video. Brother, I hope it's the same video. I hope it's not multiple videos. Because sometimes, you compare notes and you like, oh yeah, brother, I seen the same thing. Then y'all see it and you realize, oh my God, we got two different things. So it's twice as bad as we thought. Spirit, character, mind, soul says, oh nah. Yeah. I'm just saying that us being amongst these Europeans is we gotta get away from these Europeans. That's all I can say. We have taken on so many of their destructive traits and proclivities and sexual barbarities that you know and wherever you think it stopped at is always one step further than you think. Like I thought we had stopped, I thought we stopped at dudes wearing dresses. Apparently we are on to women and animals. I would like to end on a lighter note. That thing is just so horrific. I don't even want to go into it any further. Just saw the video, tried to, hope that it was like, I don't know, fake or whatever. That's where we are, brothers and sisters. These are some of the taboo topics that we don't want to talk about in the black community, and we don't want to talk about because this stuff is disgusting. Um, there's a lot of trauma involved. There's a lot of madness, insanity, just a lot of craziness. But I think it's good for us to be transparent and good for us to really take a tally of where we are because we can't deal with anything or build anything if we don't take notes of where we are as a people. And so, sister say, I'm so ready to have a place carved out for us. I'm ready to get off this rock. Many people feel that way. Says sane and black people need to start living in closer, tighter proximity to each other. We need not to be sprinkled apart, like-minded and similar coded folks have to have a separate community. Yeah, absolutely. The Amish thing, that might be a model that we need to look at. I don't even know how we would research it. Of course, they're European, so they have certain things that they're allowed to do, but they've gotten away with it for I don't know how long. I guess maybe 100 years or more. But yeah, these are things that they'll come up later, and I'll probably do shows, like I said, on each one of them individually. It is, I don't know if y'all can tell, but it's a lot for me to deal with and talk about these things spiritually. They kind of weigh on you because a lot of times I start memories of interactions with sisters or hearing things with brothers or just interactions with different people and different things in my life come up when I talk about these things. And so it's hard, it's not something I can do back to back to back to back. Sister says topics to discuss with prospective compliment. Sister, can you elaborate on that real quick before we close out? You mean these are topics that we should discuss with prospective compliments or something else? I'm not sure what you mean by that. But yeah, I don't know if I want to talk to this is a rough list. I don't know if I want to talk to anybody about this. The sexual abuse thing, usually if a sister feels comfortable with you, she's gonna tell you that. The rape thing, kind of the same thing. I don't think no sister's gonna tell you that she's too friendly with her dog. I don't think they're giving that one up. I don't think no sister's gonna admit that she's committing paternity fraud. Devil's advocate question. So, what about folks who live on top of each other in the projects? Why haven't they found why haven't they found community at a higher level? If I understand the question correctly, because in those environments you have a lack of resources, and they've done studies, like they've done studies on animals, that when you pile like mice or whatever on top of each other in an enclosed environment with a scarcity of resources, they turn on each other and begin to fight each other. So the European had studied this stuff before they implemented it. You know, a lot of things we think are accident. No, a lot. They call it a project for a reason. And you look into the meaning of the word, you understand what I'm saying. Um, so with that, brothers and sisters, again, Brother Irritated Gene is having his event on the 25th, which is this Saturday upcoming, at Everlasting Life Cafe, which is at 9185 Central Avenue, Capitol Heights, Maryland. I believe tickets are available via Eventbrite, and we're going to talk about African survival in the 21st century. So I'm sure that, I'm not sure. Actually, I don't know what exactly he'll get into. So let me not make up a lie. And the brother said, as Black people, we desperately need a code of conduct that we all agree that we will enforce in our communities. But that's going to be very difficult because so many of our people are the perpetrators. It's needed without question, but let's look at how reticent people are to take on the homosexuality and sexual abuse issue. Just those two things in and of themselves. But we definitely need that. But with that, brothers and sisters, I'm going to close out. It's been 2 hours. I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for your support, your comments, for previous donations. Again, if anybody wants to donate, the Cash App is at the bottom. $ DC Radical 1, all one word. Again, I'm on Instagram at DC.radical1, and on Twitter at DC_radical_ONE. That's at DC_radical_ONE. Thank you, Sister Vanessa. I'm glad that you found it informative. And I'm glad you found it as a needed discussion. And someone says we also need to be able to discern and identify people with African integrity. Indeed, that I believe is another show in and of itself. So with that, brothers and sisters, that is my time. And I say a BB for Hodie and straight Black pride.